Who decided that lawyers were bad people? When was that decided? I have no idea. Do you? Welcome to Small Talk.
Any and all are welcome here to come and chat with me.
Hello, everyone. Well, it's looking like spring out there, and it's supposed to get really warm this afternoon, at least here in Chilliwack. I hope it's that way where you are. And we'll find out how it is with my guest. Ladies and gentlemen, time to meet John Heaney. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Nancy. Welcome to great to be here. Very sunny outdoors. We've had a string of great weather here in Victoria, and we've been outdoors enjoying it.
Right. Yeah. Now you're an attorney, correct?
I'm a lawyer. Yes, I'm a litigator predominantly. I'm a courtroom lawyer, and have been coming up on 15 years now.
So why did you go into law?
I think it's something that always interested me. I recall being in my early teens, having a family member, not close in our family, a cousin who was just finishing at McGill. We lived in Montreal at the time, and I was, of course, a person who was just fascinated by what lawyers did from television or films. And I met one, up close who had just completed, and he talked me through, the excitement he had for it. And so that was that at that age, that was certainly something I had been thinking of. I recall very fondly my dad, who'd been a World War II naval veteran in the North Atlantic convoy campaign, and was put through school on his return as a result of being a reserve officer, and that was very interested in me joining the military, joining the reserve officers sort of program, so I could have the same benefit he did when free university and that sort of thing. And he was selling me on it, and I was not enthusiastically responding to that as a 13 or 12-year-old. And I remember saying, well, John, they need lawyers in the Navy also. It's a great life. So I know at about that age, I was already thinking about it. And I numerous times during my adult life, I was working, I had good jobs, I was enjoying the work I did, and I was always thinking, I'll go back to school and do that. And the opportunity really didn't present itself until I was, in my 40s, really. So it's a second career for me, but it's been a fulfilling one, and one I've always wanted to pursue.
So how many years of schooling does it require?
Generally speaking, an applicant to a Canadian law school will already have an undergraduate degree. Some people will have a graduate degree. Mm-hmm. And then you'll do 3 years of classes, 3 years of law school, and then you're required to pass. Commonly, we call it, or from the U.S., we call it pass the bar exam. After you're in the midst of articling. So you article for a year with one or more lawyers. You can article in government, you can article wherever law is practiced in the private sector. And then you study. There's a course to prepare you for what we call the professional legal training course to help you pass the exam. And so you're 3 years essentially and a year of indentured servitude to another lawyer or lawyers. That's what it takes. I managed to get in as a mature student, I guess, or kind of late in my career. So the University of Victoria, thankfully, on my third attempt, admitted me on the basis of 3 years of a arts degree. I had virtually no post-secondary when I was in my 40s, a couple of courses here and there. And so I started going to summer school and started to complete as much of a BA as I could. And I was very, very fortunate to be admitted by UVic Law with 3 years done in my bachelor's degree.
Was it, now when you had to pass the bar, was that nerve-wracking?
It's a very interesting phenomena because it is 2 days of exams. It's long, it's sort of arduous, and everyone gets freaked out by it. But the interesting thing is that it has a 15% or lower, maybe currently, failure rate. Like the percentage of people who you get a second crack at it for free, and the percentage of people who don't pass it by the second time around is like 15%. But you wouldn't believe it by just the amount of stress and intense preparation students generally do for it. And there's about 14 weeks of course and practicum and that sort of stuff, and then you write the exam, and nobody treats it like they've got an 85% chance of passing without effort. Everyone gets pretty freaked out about it, and as in my experience, and works very hard and is full of tremendous relief when it's over.
So at what point did you decide what kind of law you wanted to be involved in?
Well, there's, we talk about two basic streams in law. All people that are admitted to the bar, we refer to them as barristers and solicitors. When you are admitted to the bar, you take what is called the solicitor's oath here in BC, to the Law Society of BC. And in a way, maybe that describes what is considered to be the most basic part, or the foundational part of law. A solicitor's work is basically to, advise clients, know the law, help them deal with their issues, whether it's looking forward, it's prospective. A solicitor is invaluable to help you set up your business, do your will, provide for your family in the future, create, a trust for your children, negotiate business deals with others, advise you on a whole host of matters, a whole gamut of law. And that is sort of the foundational part of a lawyer's work, is to look at people's circumstances, look at where they want to go, what they want to achieve, or unfortunately defend themselves against, or defend their rights against others with whom they're having some potential conflict, and know the law and know how to advise them on both a sort of strictly legal and a strategic, tactical way forward, dealing with people they may be having an issue with. So the exciting part, I think, for solicitors, I'm not one generally, is usually it's more the ability to help people create something that they dreamt of, right? We want to have a family business. We want to have a family. We want a boat we want to co-own with our friends and family. Whatever it is that is positive in your life, you want to provide for your family after you're gone. So they're there helping people build. And looking forward, and they're also there to help people respond to issues that confront them, people that have a problem with them, people that could create potential legal problems for them. But at that point, that's predominantly where a barrister or a dispute resolution lawyer, an advocate, would come in. So I am required by my ethical canon, by the code that we operate under, to know the law when I'm advising people. But the large bulk of my work occurs when people already have a problem, where they are in a dispute with a business partner, with a government agency, with someone they sold something to, with someone they bought something from, with someone who hurt them or damaged them. So I usually become involved when it's a matter of something has a likelihood from either side's perspective that we may be in front of a court eventually to resolve this, to determine what should happen. And so I used to joke often, the easy thing about being a barrister is the situation's already screwed up when it comes to you. So, the threshold for success will be a little lower, but it's very gratifying. It's, you help as much as you can, and you're seeing people at a point in their life, in their family life, in their business, where they're struggling with the fact that their rights are in conflict with someone else's attention, or they've got some sort of problem that they need to work through, and they need to persuade other people of the validity of their perspective or their rights. And it's very gratifying. It's very fulfilling to be able to work with people and say, okay, well, you've got a great case, or you have some difficulties. Let's negotiate. Let's get a settlement of this that's going to be the best reasonable outcome for you. Or end up, speaking to the court and advocating on their behalf in the court and trying to persuade the court to see their way.
Right. So I'm just wondering, there are a lot of shows that on TV or, in movies that where they show court, what's happening in court. How realistic is what they show in movies or on TV shows? Is it compared to real life?
Some strive to be very authentic with respect to the courtroom. Some strive to be more authentic with respect to the life of lawyers, or the life inside a firm, or the sort of way in which the negotiations and the settlement and the hardball and the gambits all unfold in these kind of conflicts. Very few are, well, predominantly we are, if you're watching average television, I suppose, I like a lot of law shows. I have watched them over my life, but largely when we're looking at American style, American oriented or originating shows, we're seeing a totally, well, a system that isn't exactly ours. And unfortunately,
Right.
some people pick up from those shows their view of what, the Canadian law is, or the Canadian process is. I would say for my money, probably the most realistic courtroom depiction of the Canadian scenario was many years ago in the fabulous show Street Legal, which
Oh,
had
right.
Eric Peterson and a bunch of those people in it. And that looked like, the inside of a courtroom as we experience it in Canada. I think everyone was gowned when they were at trial and that sort of thing. But I watched them with my couple of my kids are big fans of Suits. It's meant to be set in Manhattan. It's shot in Toronto. The British royal family is former cast member, and it's fun to watch. It's fun to see this sometimes outrageous gambits they make on behalf of other people, and the leverage they try to get on behalf of their clients with other people, and the way they try to, I wouldn't say blackmail other people, but the stuff that happens in the courtroom is American for one, and I don't think really all that accurately depicts exactly how the procedure goes in America. You'll see people, the way they cross-examine and a whole bunch, the way the procedure goes, the way that people talk to the judge, and that is not quite on.
Oh, okay. Now, speaking of American show, do you ever watch Judge Judy?
If her cable channel is in between the sports and the news, and I flick by it, I'll pause and go, yeah, she still seems to be on television. But those kind of shows, I mean, I probably paused and have stopped, and thought, what's going on here? And the interesting part about those shows, and I can't say I know a great deal about it, is that what they're a great lesson in, you see the people, usually couples or family members, or that people owe each other money and that sort of stuff.
Yeah. The concept for those,
you'd expect. But what people don't expect sometimes is they think, well, the judge is a very senior lawyer, selected by the government for their judicial ability, and the judge is is going to know the law and is going to hear everybody. But part of what I think the court achieves most effectively is to sort of very clearly from the outset give people an idea of what they think is S and what is Shinola, and and just to help them sort out their issues by not letting them believe that that the court's going to take a lot of time to hear nonsense. So the part where Judge Judy or any of these judges go in and say, well, you've got this massive problem with your case, and you, sir, shouldn't be so cocky because you've both got problems. That is kind of the nature of our dispute system. In BC, 5% of court cases that are launched, civil claims in the civil realm, where people have contract, tort, or property issues with each other, 5% of those cases go to actual trial. And it's because part of the work of the lawyers on both sides is to help people resolve their issues and do it in a cost-effective way, and not use up court time for things that don't really belong there. And so along the way, you can interact with judges. You could go to mediation in some circumstances. You'll have conferences, meetings leading up to a trial, where judges try their best to kind of go, look, everyone here should confront the frailties of their case. Everyone here should understand that you're going to get a judge, you don't know what they're going to think, you think everything's going to go your way. Everyone should give their head a shake and try to find a resolution. Keep this out of the court, keep the taxpayers' money from being spent on your little squabble. And so to the extent Judge Judy bangs people's heads together, metaphorically, she looks like a judge.
I heard her say that one of the reasons why they have this type of court is to keep it out of right, so that it frees up the court for some more serious cases.
I agree. I don't know that in Canada we want a TV court that takes we divert court cases too, but part of the professional canon of being a lawyer, part of our code of conduct, is that we are under an ethical obligation to, when we see that our clients are being offered something reasonable from the other side, right? You've got this, you've threatened to sue each other, you remain distant on money or what should happen. You are in court already, and the process that leads up to trial is already unfolding. at all those points in time, your lawyer has an ethical obligation that if they see what is coming from the other side to be reasonable, a reasonable settlement of this, that includes, we could forego all these costs of paying lawyers. So when we're meant to act against our own interest and say, don't go all the way in this. Don't pay your lawyers. You'll end up paying their lawyers if you lose. We have an ethical obligation to say to our clients, look, this is the point at which I think you should settle. If they instruct us to, no, I want to keep going, we're also almost equally obligated to continue to take them up in that and advocate for them and let them instruct us as to what they want to see happen. But I think it's an important part of people understanding that if you get a lawyer on your side, they are meant to advocate for you. Mm-hmm. They are meant to be, partisan to a degree in your corner. But they have an underlying obligation to see that the justice system itself works effectively, and we don't bring bad cases to the court. We don't eat up taxpayers' time. We don't eat up public resources. We don't deny other people a chance to be in court for potentially more important things for small squabbles. So we're working to try to keep it out of court in some respects.
We often hear negative things said about lawyers, like, have you any idea when that all started and why?
That's a very interesting question. Your listeners might be familiar with the quote from, I want to say it's Richard III in Shakespeare, in which Richard's going to, overthrow his brother or cousin or whatever and become king. And I think it's from there that he says, the very first thing, we kill all the lawyers. And I think that people have often through my life, certainly, until I kind of thought about it or was disgusted. I always thought, yeah, right. The lawyers must be a scourge on society. I see people's point. Even back in Shakespeare's day, they were saying, we wouldn't get our problems all so messed up and entangled if it weren't for lawyers making money off these conflicts. And so, yeah, what he's saying is, when I'm king, I'll bring some benefit to the kingdom by getting rid of all the lawyers. But as you reflect on it and you learn and you look internationally, what Shakespeare was really saying, and what we would say the situation today is, if you want to run an effective tyrannical authoritarian government and suppress people's rights, you ensure they don't have legal counsel available to advocate for them, to push back, to say, this is unconstitutional, this is against people's human rights. So, I don't know exactly where lawyers got a bad reputation, but it might have been people saying, yeah, Richard III had it right.
Yeah, they're bad until you need one.
Exactly. Yeah, when people say, talk about the police in a similar way. It's like, until you need one, you can have a poor opinion of them. And like any profession, where we are meant to put our best foot forward, and we're meant to do those things that reflect well on the profession. But there's people that miss that mark in all professions. But a world without lawyers would be a glorious thing, as long as as we've eliminated at the same time the potential for governments to act autocratically, or we've eliminated the potential for people to be powerful because of their wealth or have an ability to exploit others. Once we get to that world, the need for lawyers will entirely disappear.
Right. Now, how difficult is it for you personally to keep your feelings out of any particular case or situation?
Well, it's a very good question. I've been very fortunate in my legal career, and I've been very fortunate in other aspects of work I've done in my life to have a real belief in the people I work with. So I'm at a stage in my life now. I've not been a lawyer for as long as some people who are 45, but I'm significantly older than that, and I have a combination of a long time of practice, relatively long time, and some experience of age and employment elsewhere. And so at this point now in my life, I'm able to pick, who I want to work for. And I don't get myself into situations where, the advocacy I want to do, the cause that the person I'm working for has, is seriously at odds with my own personal beliefs or personal feelings. So I'm relieved of that kind of conflict. Not all lawyers are able to do that, and certainly, not all lawyers should do that. What the law profession tells us is, if you're living in, Heffley, BC, and you're the only lawyer in town, you should not shirk from taking the case of someone who is, you know, not thought well of, or someone who may, you know, may be on the wrong side. You have to put aside your feelings. You have to put aside your own view of this person, because you have pledged to be an advocate. You're not a judge. Right? You want to be a judge and say, I already know you're not worthy. I already know your case is not worth fighting for. Then you should just do your lawyer work and apply to be a judge and see if you get that privilege to say, you know, you're right, you're wrong. But I mean, I'm fortunate. I think if I lived in a small town, I would have to, you know, if I was the only lawyer in town, or one of two lawyers, so everyone had a lawyer, I would certainly feel like I couldn't shoo people from my office saying, you know, that's a very unsavory thing you did, or this claim, you know, you're on the wrong side of this, I can't possibly advocate for you. I think I would recognize it as, I can't say that, you know, I've loved all my clients or not felt a, you know, a degree of duty towards them, even when I personally might have disagreed with what they did. But that's just part of our ethical code, is to offer, you know, the public invested a lot in us, you know, just like a lot of professions, you know, by most standards, I guess by most reckoning, you know, when you say, well, I put myself through law school, you know, your neighbors' taxes paid 80% of that fund, right? So you said, I've qualified now, I want the public to, you know, support my legal education. You didn't do it all on your own in a Canadian university. And so you have, you know, you've declared that you want to act in the public interest, and you want to, you know, adhere to certain ethical standards that come with your profession. And so sometimes that means, you know, you advocate for someone when, you know, they've made choices you wouldn't make, but that's the job you asked for.
Yeah. Now you're an associate at a law office, right?
Right.
Does that have an advantage over being like you're having your own practice individually?
I've done both. Yeah,
okay.
for sure. So I've practiced law in three ways. And when we say associate, in the old days at least, it's less so the case now. When we say someone is an associate, that's how I started. You are a salaried employee of a law firm. You know, they are selling your services to clients. They are paying you less than, you know, what they charge your time out for. That's the deal. You have, you know, sort of job security, I guess, or you've got a, you know, you get training, and you know, you have targets. And this is when I began. You have targets to bill enough money, basically, to bring in enough money from clients that the firm gives you a third, the partners take a third, and a third goes to all the support staff, the rent, the utilities, and that sort of thing. That's how I generally started. An associate meant a salaried person, and that was going to take home about, you know, by general reckoning, about a third of what they made for the firm, what they grossed for the firm. I've been in private practice. I've been four variants, I guess. I've been an inside counsel. I've been a general counsel to a group of family, small and medium-sized businesses that were co-located, and they wanted to share in solicitor work. I did a raft of that during that period, you know, drafting documents, negotiating, doing contracts, giving advice, doing some dispute resolution. And that was kind of salaried as well. Like, I made an hourly rate, but I had, you know, only the clients that were in this consortium of family businesses, and I was provided an office, and I basically, you know, worked full time doing legal work, which if you can have in, you know, 9 to 5 and weekends, a job, and there's plenty of work to do, it's a good living. But I've also been at home. At the beginning of the pandemic, I was operating on my own. I was my own legal assistant. I was my own document filer, and I knew the route to the post office for sending registered letters pretty well, which is nice. You know, some lawyers like it because you know, you put all the money in your pocket, I suppose, right? You're billing your clients, and you're in control of your costs, and after the registered mail costs, et cetera, and the filing costs, you know, the money is yours. But there is, and then I'll come back to my current situation now, but there is an issue about being a lawyer on your own, and all of us talk about it, and it's kind of called, you know, sole practice-itis. if you are sitting there, you're reading a case, you're thinking about your client's facts, you can come up with some wacky ideas about what the right answer is, on your own, or you can come up with some ideas that have some sharp edges on them that you need grounded off a bit, to make it a little smoother. And when you're on your own, you don't have the benefit, unless you've got, friends in the profession who are willing to take your calls. You don't have a lot of people to sort of test them out, to test drive them with. And of course, your client's expecting that, you to be right from the get-go. So you can't phone your client and say, well, what do you think about this? Yeah. So I'm an associate counsel. That means that I am not a salaried employee. I'm an associate counsel. If you see it in a firm, it'll usually be reserved for someone who is a little more senior, who has been an associate, or has maybe been a partner, has been away from law, or been in their own business and comes back to a firm. And basically I can disclose, everyone in the industry knows, my administrative tenure here, my relationship to the firm is like a hairdresser's to a salon, right? I pay a portion of what I make directly to them to have the benefit of access to a legal assistant and this computer I'm talking on, and the coverage, my legal insurance coverage, etc. I pay a share of what I earn, and they as payment for them. But the greatest benefit is that there's 4 litigators next door to me, right? And the collegiality and the problem solving together, something you never get at home, obviously, something you never get in your solo office by yourself, something you never get if you're inside counsel on your own to as a solicitor to businesses. And it's irreplaceable, right? It's irreplaceable to be able to go down the hallway and share a problem and get the benefit of someone's experience. I just did that, or the last time I did this is what we did, because you're not reinventing a great deal in law. Most times the facts change, but the law about those kind of facts is usually kind of clear. So I'm tremendously privileged to be with a great group of people who can enhance the work I do for my clients and prevent me from making boneheaded mistakes.
Okay, well, I think that's it. Then we're just about out of time. You're the first lawyer I ever interviewed, so I just find it very, very interesting. There's so much to know, right? That you don't know, that you think you know, until you actually hear, right? Somebody speaking about it. Anyway, just hold on for a second. I'm just going to say goodbye to the audience. I hope you learned as much as I did listening to John Heaney, and I just thank him again for coming on the show. I appreciate it. And thank you all for watching, and enjoy the day, and peace out, everybody.
A sense of community, Chilliwack's a place to be. A sense of community where you're free. Rolling through the mountains, rolling through the valley, rolling through paradise with me. It's multicultural, you're sure to see it all. Chilliwack's the place to be, you'll see. Come party in the park, go dancing after dark. Chilliwack's the place to be, you'll see.